Hello, people of the world, and welcome to this revised edition of 100 Days In. I think it's pretty clear, but I'll make it even clearer. This is now a video podcast, whereas before for 3 or 2.5 series, it's been audio. I am very pleased to say we are now video, and it's been something I've been working on for the last few months or so. So I'm finally pleased to be here. This week I chat with the founder of ClearAds, a guy called George Meressa. ClearAds are a marketing agency primarily focused on Amazon advertising. I always think back and reflect on what is the point of that episode. One of the key takeaways for me, that struck very, very quickly, is that nailing a niche over a number of years really does have huge upside. So often, I think sometimes the risk with this podcast is that you move away from your niche too early and then you end up just watering down your identity. It's so tempting because obviously you can branch out into new opportunities. Novelty is such an important thing. Everyone's excited about it. But sticking with a niche is really difficult, and that's something that ClearAds and George have done just so well. I think you're going to bloody love this episode. There's one bit in there around being bold that I think is really cool. He gives a really good story. So without further ado, that's it from me. Let's get on with it.
Content. Try and answer that question with as much detail as possible. More detail than anyone else. If I was to start from scratch, if I knew what I knew then, oh my goodness, it would be a different story. But I would be putting out... I'm welling up a little bit talking about it because till this day, that has driven me. And then at the end, I asked him one question. This is where being bold is so important. I just asked him one question which changed everything.
George, really good to have you on. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
I know that this podcast focuses on the very beginning, the first 100 days. But I think what would be quite useful for me and the audience is to know, where is ClearAds at now and what does the business do? How big has your business grown? What's the current state of play?
Yeah, sure. So been running just under 13 years now. So we'll be 13 years from the 4th of January this year. So by the time this comes out, we'll be over 13 years. Have a team of 20 in the UK here. We're a 7-figure agency based in London, but we work with companies all around the world. Primarily now on Amazon through e-commerce, helping them with their advertising through Amazon's pay-per-click and demand-side platform. The next year looks pretty exciting. There's a lot of things moving, all in the right direction. We're fairly established in the space and known, have a good reputation.
Let's just go back to the beginning. So how long has the business been running? Do you say it's been running for 12, 13 years?
Yeah, it's been running for 13 years.
So what does day zero look like? If I was to travel back in time and spend the day with you, what would day zero look like in terms of your thought process? How the day panned out, the things that you wrote down and thought about?
It's interesting you say that, actually, because I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So if we go before day one, I've always loved the idea of taking something at a reasonable price, putting my part into it and making money off it, right? It's always interested me from secondary school. So I used to sell, fizzy drinks. And then I realized, actually, I can get better margins if I sold the fizzy drink straight after PE, right? Because everyone's going to be thirsty, and made a decent amount out of that. And there's a whole range of things that I messed around with and I got to work. So and then when I got to university, a friend of mine introduced me to a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that really kind of cemented my future, really, in terms of what I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to go in, which is kind of work for myself. Which at the time I didn't know what that took, but I thought, right, I'm going to do this. And then when I was at university, I worked flat out every day, saving as much as I can at work, the place I worked, and then studying the rest of the time. And the place I worked, a bunch of my friends worked there. They all went and bought like really nice cars. But then I decided to spend all of my money to create a website to help people save money, which was just an absolute flop, right? I made no money. That was like 2.5 grand down the drain. I did have some company in the US reach out to buy it, but I got greedy and wanted too much. Never got their details. I just messed up. The whole thing was just a mess, right? But I knew I had to create a website. I knew who to go to now, just because of the things I learned from this process, right? And I think the big thing was always drive, right? I came from a pretty rough area in East London in Hackney at the time. It's not no longer that rough, but I always wanted to get out, and I thought this is going to be my kind of my way out of kind of this area, and not feeling safe going out and doing normal day-to-day things, seeing family, worry about where we're going to get money, or saving money, or being careful, or not going out too often to eat. I've always thought, right, if I ever go out to eat, I never ever want to worry about money. Whoever I'm with, they should never have to be concerned about what they get. We should just be happy to eat freely where we are, where we go. I should never have to question whether I need to take the train or get an Uber late at night, or any of my friends. That's the main thing, right? Is more freedom. So then I was like, okay, so that's what I want to do. And I started working for my friend's agency, and he really inspired me. Like, and I get on with Simon Kelly like so well. He started an agency very young, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come and help me with sales?" It was a Google Ads company. And I said, "Look, I said to him, let me finish university, and I'll come and join you." So I came and joined him, and I thought, I could do this. I could honestly, I could do this. But I thought, let me just kind of continue working with him. And then I saw things that he did, and I was like, this is stuff I learned at university, studying business. Like, this could be done better. So I suggested it. Nothing was ever done with it, right, with those suggestions. So I thought, okay, if I did this, I could really break it in. So I thought, okay. So I waited a few months, and then I thought, you know what? I know how to do it. Let me just set up a company. Right? No, I didn't think I was going to go massive investment. Let me just set up a company, right? And at the time, he never gave me any form of contract. Right, it was So like he was just the best salesman ever, but had no upbringing or background in business at the time, right? So he just was just kind of going here and there. So I thought, right, let me set up a company. So I set it up, and then you can set a company up as dormant. So it's like declaring your car as sawn, right? So you don't have to pay road tax. So I just declared it as dormant. It's there. I bought the company. I thought, let me just mess around, set up a website. I know the guy to go to now to set up the website. So I set up the website. And then at this point, after about 6 months, I bought some supplements. This is all accidental. And I bought supplements. There's something wrong with them. The packaging just kind of fell apart. It just wasn't good. I was just a little bit frustrated. And I messaged the company and said, look, this is what's happened. Just thought I'd let you know. It's not a good look, right? Sent an image to show. And then the owner reached out and said, I'm really sorry this happened. We're going to send you a new packet that, is going to come intact. If you have any issues, here's my mobile. Feel free to call me. So I called him and I just told him, the issue, absolute legend, this guy, right? And then at the end, I asked him one question, right? And this is where being bold is so important. I just asked him one question, which changed everything. And then at the end, I asked him one question, right? And this is where being bold is so important. I just asked him one question, which changed everything. And he just went off on one. He just told me everything. And I said to him, look, I've been doing this for a little while. Why don't I just look at it for you? I'll produce you a report just to kind of show you what I would do in your position. He goes, please do it. So I got access to his account, did the report. He was very impressed. He went, right, let's try it for a month. Within the first month, I saved him a few thousand in ad spend and generated him way more revenue than he did the previous month. And he was like, right, this is a no-brainer. I made more money doing this than paying you. So let's just do it. So I continue. So I've got this on the side. And then doing that, plus my working for my friend's company, plus working for a charity, right? And that's the one thing people think. They go, right, I'm going to dive into a new business and I'm going to seek investment. And it's like, you're really putting the pressure on. Some people work well like that. I don't, right? And it's just how I'm different. I wouldn't want that pressure on me. So I thought, let me just see how it goes organically. So eventually my portfolio was building up. Right, I was making a bit more money. I had no time, right? And I was like one of my first of a very few breakdowns, right, where I just crushed, right? And then so I was doing all of this, and I was like, right, something's gonna have to give here. This is too much. And at this point, Sai, who I worked with, is like, I need to sign the contract now. His company was obviously growing and was doing a lot better. And by that point, I was managing the biggest accounts. I was there the longest out of everyone else. And I said to him, happy to sign this contract, but I needed to get rid of this clause, and this clause, because I would be breaching it. And he goes, well, explain. I told him the whole story. He basically said to me, just don't steal any of my clients, and that's fine. And I said, absolutely, and signed. I showed him all the clients I have, none of which were his. I would never go and do that. He's still a dear friend of mine now, and we've been really good friends. And then he said he was going to sell his company. And at that point, I was like, right, this is time for me to leave and venture into this on my own. So it was a very scrappy, messy start, the first little period. And it was about 6 months. No, so it set up in January 2011. It was by April 2011 I actually got my first deal, right? Then it was another year before I fully went into it full time. So it was a very slow start.
Just going back on what you just said there, I mean, something that you highlighted that you felt was useful in the first 100 days is having multiple revenue streams. That's something that you sent over. I'm just looking through the list now. So what were they specifically? And do you think, and I'm just being slightly contrarian here, you could argue that the more like need you have for something to be a success. So for example, if you have no revenue streams and like literally no option whatsoever but to make it a success, then wouldn't that drive you further? Which one do you feel is more likely to achieve, or do you think actually for long term it's good just having an easier start?
I think you're going to have different opinions on this. Drive is only one part of the equation, right?
Okay.
You can have drive, but in some sense be delusional, right? So what you have to offer the market is just not what it needs, right? So as much as your mum tells you how great what your product or service is, the market is ruthless. That's why I love the market. The market isn't ageist, it's not sexist, it's not racist. It does not care who you are. It doesn't care how old you are. If you can meet the market need, especially with the tools that we have, like the internet, right, you will succeed. You will succeed, and it will, and you could succeed more than like you ever could have imagined, right? And I think this is why I'm always down the route of, there's a lot of young people I meet now who are ambitious and they have this drive and they want to go and start a business. Don't be ashamed to work in a regular job. Like, if I had to start again, the bills are coming out. I will happily serve some coffee to someone. I will happily mop floors. I will happily do any of that stuff, right? Because you need to ensure you have enough to pay the bills, right? When you have that in place, then you have some peace of mind. Now, the next thing, so the first thing is I was working for a charity because I'm a Christian, and that charity I worked with had a massive impact on my life growing up. For me to get to know who Jesus is, and I thought, right, and they asked me to do the job, and I was like, it was an honor. So that was an honor for me, right? So that is kind of heavily more weighed on purpose, right? And I get a lot of satisfaction. Till this day, I'm involved with it, right?
Yeah.
So that gives me the purpose side of things. Now, the one thing I would definitely encourage young people to do is, especially if you want to go down the route like where I'm going, like if you want to go into a service-based company, right? Find whoever's the best at it and ask them, hey, can I just help out for free? Just cover my costs. I would love to help out, right? Obviously, need to make sure you're still making some money, right? And when you're young, the big benefit you have is you've got the energy for it, right? You can do all these things, right? And, I've had some people go to me, oh, George, I can't believe you're saying that. A lot of people don't come from privilege and have the backbone of their parents and being able to live at home. They need to make money. And I'm like, yeah, that is true, but you can still make money somewhere else and put effort into, it comes down to drive. How much do you want it, right? If you really want it, you can find time. And trust me, you go to an employer, and this isn't me saying I want any of this. I don't have time to deal with this stuff, right? I'm not trying to, persuade people to come do this with me. But if you do that, an employer is going to go, okay, I'm going to give you a shot because there's no risk with you, right? And this is the big issue employers have right now is someone can present themselves as incredible and be rubbish, and someone can come across as not so good and can be absolutely amazing, right? You never know until you try out. So when you go to companies that you want to work for and you show them your drive, you show them you have common sense, you show them you do the things that you say you're going to do at the time you said it's going to get done. These are the basic things employers want. You have common sense, you have drive, you say you do the things you're going to do. This is foundational stuff, right? You can do that, then you're winning, right? That's a good start, right? And then and do that and learn the craft, right? Because when you learn the craft, right, then you can go into the market and you can actually put it out. Especially if you want to go down the service. But if I had to start everything again, that is literally what I'll do. I will find the best. Who's the best person who knows about SEO? Who's the best person who knows about social media? Go and find them. They're going to be really busy. So nag a few people in the company and say, look, I'd love to just help. And, you just show them how tenacious you are and how eager you are for the opportunity. And someone will go, okay, let's give this young guy a shot or young girl a shot.
One of my previous guests went through, I would say, a kind of more substantial process, but very similar in some ways. So he and his business partner came up with one idea a week and did work experience at the industry they were thinking about entering. And every week they worked out why the business idea wouldn't work out. Did that for 52 weeks, and the 53rd week, they came up with an idea that finally had legs. So it's similar to what you're saying. I appreciate the example that you're giving is over a longer time period. You're saying get experience in the industry, and then from that you can maybe find a niche or find a gap to go into. Is that fair to say?
Let me tell you what they did right and I did wrong.
Go on.
Right?
I'm interested to know.
They tested more and failed more than I did. And that's the one thing. And so I love your podcast, and I love the fact that you're doing the first 100 days, because we could talk about all the glamorous things. You could talk about, the extravagant places I'm fortunate enough to go to, or the things I'm able to do, right? But actually, let's talk about the dirt. Let's talk about the nasty bits. Let's talk about the stuff people don't even know about, right? Like now, I am so happy to fail. I will have 3 failures in a week, right? I want to fail fast. I just get past it before I'm like, I'm nervous, what are people going to think if I failed? So I didn't test as much. These guys are brutal. I love it. They go, right, let's test this, not work, move on. Considering that they've given it the best. And some things, it might be a great idea, but just the market isn't ready for it yet. Bank it, you've tested it, you've got a head start when you go back to it now, right? So they tested at such a fast pace, and that's something, I failed. So I failed 3 or 4 times before I saw any success with this business, right? On multiple different things I tried. I wish I tried more things, right? And I think that's the one thing that they did that worked well, is they were very happy to fail and move on. And I wasn't at the time. I was too nervous. I was worried about what people thought. I wanted to take it slow and safe. But yeah. Can I just share one other thing with you? I think you'll like this.
Please do.
My mum is a woman I love, right? She is someone who has become my mum and my dad, right? Because my dad passed away like a number of years ago. She brought up me and my sister, right? My mum was very entrepreneurial. Was born in Saudi Arabia, and she did a bunch of things to kind of earn money. So when I told my mum I wanted to start a business, I was nervous. I have a lot of respect for her. I didn't know what she was going to say. So I told my mum I was going to start a business. She got up. She went upstairs. She came down about 10 minutes later, and she handed me an envelope with £5,000, right? And to my mum, that was a lot of money. And my mum, you got to understand, she was tight, right? We would go to Tesco to buy sweet corn because it was cheap there. Then we would walk all the way and not take the bus, walk to Lidl because the ketchup was cheaper. And it was disgusting, by the way, but it was cheaper just so she can save money. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't do any of that, right? Literally save a hot. So this was a big amount of money for my mum. And she gave me that at the beginning, right? And what that said to me was more powerful than any words she can come out of her mouth is, I trust you, I believe in you, and I'm betting on you. Right. And that was the drive that gave me, right, I'm welling up a little bit talking about it because till this day that has driven me. And there's going to be moments when you're working 10, 12 hours a day. All your friends have got amazing jobs in London. They're earning 40, 50, 60, 100,000 a year. And they're going, what are you doing? Come out with us. I can't come out because I've got to keep focusing on the business. And that drive is so important. Like, what is it? If you don't have the drive, then like, good luck.
I feel like your background and your story, and it's difficult to say, but do you think if you'd had, and we'll come on some of the practicals in a sec, but do you think if you had a very like middle class upbringing with like all the luxury that you wanted, do you think you'd be where you are now? Do you think you would have started Clear Ads?
There's more to it than that, isn't there? Because I think there's characteristics that people can have. I think I'm not the smartest by any means. I think if I was in the middle class, if I came from a middle class background and I got really good grades, plus I had the characteristics that I have, this would be a 9-figure brand right now, right? Making way more money than we're making. I think the characteristics that, especially that I think an entrepreneur should have, right, is the ability to just do, right? Less people do. A lot of people talk, or a lot of people try and figure everything out, right, before they actually implement. You don't know what the market is going to be like until you get in it. And people don't do that enough, right? So whether I come from a middle class background, whether I come from a working class background, whether whatever life has thrown at me, if I'm not doing, then like you don't know what's going to happen. And I have, I've met a bunch of incredibly great people that just don't do that off their own back, right? It's actually going, this is interesting. Let me go test it now.
Something I'm just still trying to work out is, when I speak to founders as part of this podcast, is, do you think you were just born with those characteristics, or were they a function of your upbringing, or is it difficult to tell? Because obviously, we're having this conversation now. You can listen to episodes with other founders, and you can like distill the things that means that they are where they are. But I still struggle with the idea of, were they always just meant to do something good and they were born that way, or they were informed with their early life?
That's a very good question. I can only tell you my experience, and from what I've seen personally, as a young person, when I was like 10, 11, 12, anyone who owned their own business to me was a rock star. I would be engaged and listening to every word that come out of their mouth, right? And any idea or anything that they shared about business, I would, just lap it in. So for me, they were, this is the dream. Like, these guys are like nailing it. So there was that rule, and I don't know where that came from. So that was just a massive interest of mine. I just couldn't tell you whether it's come from my upbringing or I was born like this.
So fast forward, you've started the Clear Ads. We were in, say, the first month or so. Cold calling, 100 cold calls a day.
Oh man, that was, so that's how I did it, right? Code calls, and at the time, you could do it. Like GDPR wasn't a thing in Europe, and I would just call companies, and it was very easy. You can go into Google, you could search, see what ads come up, find the company name, give them a call. And when I was working with Si, I did that in the first month of working for him, and I was horrible at it. But obviously now I knew the service, so I could get better at it. And I was a skill that even Si laughed at me because you're not a sales guy at all. But then I had to learn. I was like, right, in order for me to give this a really good shot, I just need to have some form of KPI here, right? And it's not about how many people I speak to in a day because I can't control that. It's not about how many deals are closed in a month because I can't control that. So what I deemed as a success is every afternoon I need to pick up the phone 100 times and call 100 different people. That is it. Some days that happened quick, and other days it took longer because a lot more people picked up. But all I could control was 100. 100 was just a number I just plucked out of nowhere. I was like, right, I did 50 or 60. I was faffing around like in that last hour, or I took a nap, or I went for a long walk, or I put the telly on. So if I didn't do all those things, I could probably get away with 100. So next week, I am doing 100, right? I'm psyching myself up. And man, was it horrible. 100 calls, people telling you to, go get a life. And I'm the least from thick skin, right? I take these things personally, and I was like, I would sleep at night and go, "Do I need to get a life? Is there any truth to what he said? On the call." So it would really impact me, right? So I was like, right, I've got to keep going. And then I started picking up business, right? So in the morning, I would manage the accounts that I have, and in the afternoons, I knew I couldn't shut this off. I need to continue to make these calls and make these calls and make these calls. And then eventually you get someone who's warm. And then, you have to, not only is it the drive to make these calls and continue, but it's also the organizational skills to actually follow up. When you say, I'm going to call you on this day, and I said, right, I can't do this all in Excel anymore. I need to get a CRM system. I found a nice cheap one. Then it automatically reminded me on my calendar, as well as the calls that I have with code calls. There's these warm calls that, I've engaged with. There's a few people that said, call me back in 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 10 months, a year, 2 years, and then call them. And that's the hardest. At the very beginning, you don't have the luxuries that more established businesses have, where they got a referral from someone that they used to work with 3 years ago, or someone's referred them from an event they went to 2 years ago and met. You don't have that luxury. You're starting from scratch. No one knows who you are. You don't have a foundation. So then you've got to start somewhere.
I'm a business owner. My phone goes off. It's about 13 years ago or so. It's George Meressa calling me. I pick up. What would I hear?
I would be like, hey, I'm George. I own an ad agency, and I was just calling to see how your Google Ads is running. Noticed you're running ads online, and I just listen. And then you can tell from the tone. Well, first I would ask, this is what I do. I run a Google Ads agency. I noticed you're running ads on Google. Do you know who would be the best person to speak to in regards to this? And then if they give me a name, they gave it away. They should have done that. I write the name down. Let's just say it's Brian. I write down, or Janet. The next time I call, I'll be like, hey, how's it going? Is Janet there? And they were like, oh, she's not there. Oh, okay. Well, any chance I can get her email so I can reach out to her and just schedule some time to talk? And some of them are, the more experienced receptionists or office managers. They would ask, well, what is it about? Have you spoken to her before? And then I go, okay. And then those receptionists, after some time, you have a bit of a laugh. Oh, she's been off. Why? Because she's had a kid. Oh, congratulations. I heard you had a child. That's incredible. Boy or girl? Oh, girl, what's their name? Remember their name. Write the name down. They'll go, oh, how's baby Charlie doing? 2 months now, right? Oh, man, it must be growing. And just creating those rapports, because these people are the gatekeepers, right? And then what happens is if you get into the good books of the gatekeepers, they'll go, oh, you know what? Craig is they'll tell you, well, what's Craig like? Go on, tell me. What's the best way to reach Craig or chat to Craig? And they'll tell, well, he loves to talk about this or he loves to talk about that. And then I know, and then it builds a story, right? If you're going to speak to someone 4 or 5 times, if you're just robotic or cold, then like you've already lost. But if you can build a rapport, have a laugh, get to know their name, figure out a bit about who they are, and they're warm to you.
So that was then. We're now in 2023. I know you mentioned GDPR, but surely that technique is still viable. No, you can find company.
I wouldn't do that now.
Wouldn't do it now. You can't find company numbers online and do that.
What I think the beauty is, once you've been in the game for a little bit, you pick up things, and then okay, if you were to do it, how would you do it differently? And I know the way I would do it differently now, which is content. So if I was to start from scratch, if I knew what I knew then, oh my goodness, it would be a different story. But I would be putting out as much content as possible to show people online that I know what I'm talking about, right? So I would be on the likes of LinkedIn. I'll be posting about Google Ads, the successes I've had, what to do. I would run people through step by step, how to create a campaign, what to look out for. I would be creating comprehensive pages on my website talking about the topic, trying to create as much authority from Google's perspective on that topic, so that they can see, okay, this person knows who they're talking about, so you can start to rank organically. I will be finding events and places where my target audience go there, meet them in person, build a face-to-face rapport with them, because that's one of my skills. I know I'm good with people, so I know I can relate well with people. I can have a laugh. It's very hard to hang up on someone in person, right? On a phone, it's very easy to just put it down. If you're in person, especially in the UK, it's incredibly impolite to just kind of walk away from someone. So you got on for a bit. I know that, mastering the sweetest thing you can say to anyone in the world is one thing. It's their name. Nothing is sweeter to anyone than their name. Just knowing things like, reading, the amount of books I've read, how to win friends and influence people. And, people just love to talk about themselves. So ask them questions. I play a game. When I go into a room, I try and find out as much as I can about as many people as I can without even telling them my name. You'll be surprised, right? No one goes, oh, you haven't told me your name. What's your name? No one. When you get someone engrossed, you find out what they like and you keep asking questions and you really want to know, right? And you show genuine interest. They get lost. And just knowing these things, that is the way I would approach it. And then I don't know if this goes into some of your other questions, but I remember at one point, this is one thing my mentor at the time, who's sadly passed away now, shared with me, because I was doing stuff with the church, helping out with the youth work, and I said to him, hey, is there any chance I can, do a paid role here, because, I volunteer here, you guys know me, and money is a bit tight. So he said to me, and honestly, it's the best thing he could have said, is he said, let me actually help you with the business, because he had some experience in the business space, and support you rather than the church pay you. And I said, okay, great. He saved me thousands and picked up business. And a really key thing that he did with me, right, is he said to me, George, make 3 lists of people, right? He said, make the list of people who you know so well, like your people, right? Your family, people you see all the time. Make a list as long as possible. The second list is people that you know well, but you might not see that often, right? You might interact with every now and again, but you just don't know as well. So I made a list of his second group. And he goes, the third list of people are those who you never really talk to, right? You had some relationship. You might have been in the same class as them 5 years ago. Just make a list. And that's what he told me that week. Just make a list as long as possible and then email it to me. I emailed it to him. The next time we met, he said, right, what you need to do is you need to message each one of them. The same message. Just say to them, hey, I've set up a company and I have this skill. Do you know anyone who would benefit from this skill? And we worded it in this way because it's not about putting them under pressure, right? It's about going, oh, well, is there anyone that I know that might be able to help, right? So I took this approach and it was so interesting, right? Because the people I thought were my ride or dies and would help me didn't even respond. Those who I barely spoke to years ago, they were like, oh my gosh, Georgia, there's 5 people. And I know, bam, 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 bam. And then all I said to him is, can you just send them this email? I said, hey, friend George, I know him. He's a good person. He set up his company and he's looking for help. He runs a Google Ads agency. And I thought maybe you two could connect and maybe there might be some opportunities there. So they'll send that warm email. Then at that point, I'll respond back and go, "Hey, I'm George. It'll be so nice to have a conversation." And man, is that more warm, right? And don't underestimate your network. Like, you don't understand, that auntie you have, that long lost sister, the sibling, like they can have some seriously powerful friends. They might have went to school with someone who's absolutely crushing it. You don't know until you ask them that question.
That warm intro point, it resonates with me because a lot of my previous guests have been intros from previous guests. So that's something that I 100% can align with you on. I'm interested though, and it popped into my head. I wanted to wait until you finished speaking before I asked it. But you have those 3 columns of people. So you have the people closest to you, the people you kind of speak to, and the people you never speak to. You said that your quote unquote ride or die, the people that you know the most, didn't really respond or help some. But why do you think there seem to be more people that helped you that you never spoke to in comparison with the people you know the most?
It's the who knows. It's like, who knows? I don't know. Like, and that's the thing. I think some people get really caught up with trying to figure out before they tested what they think is going to be the conclusion, right? You never know, right? So that just opened my mind and just my worldview on people and what to expect. Your mindset impacts everything. And I think when you take that approach of, you know what, you don't know who can help you, right? You never know. Just have that question. It could be that I caught some of my really close friends on a grumpy day, right? They might be going through a lot. They've got a lot on their mind. It could be that the person that I've never spoken to in a while has been blessed so much by someone else that they're in a position of like, I really want to help. It could just be that, the odds worked in my favor. They genuinely knew someone who needed help and they had a conversation with them 2 days ago. And, oh, it's funny, you actually mentioned that because this person was looking for someone that does something similar to you or was looking for advice in the topic that, you are, specializing in, or they think, when I told people I do Google ads, right, they put me under a blanket of, oh, he's in IT, right? That was, it had its benefits and its curses, but like the benefit was actually it covered a whole range of things. And I thought, oh yeah, he's asking about IT, I'll speak to Bill, and I speak to Bill, and he's like, "Oh, his computer doesn't work." I was like, "Well, I can't help you with that." I'll do ads on Google. So that kind of worked to my favor.
There's 2 other things I want to dig deeper on. One is the networking, and this is something that you actually highlighted as integral within the first 100 days, was going to as many events in person as possible. Yeah. So I'm listening to this podcast. I've taken that advice on board. I've signed up to a networking event or event within the sector I'm looking to get into. I turn up. What should I look to get out the evening? How do I approach things? What is the benefit? How do I measure success?
I think the thing to bear in mind is do not come across salesy. Don't go and say, "Hey, do you want to do business? Hey, do you want to do business?" Relationships. Build a relationship. Like that person that you're meeting at this event might not be the person that you need to speak to, right? It could be someone within their network that is going to be really well suited for you, right? Another thing to bear in mind is they don't know who you are. They've never seen your work before. You're a stranger, right? So to think off the cuff you're going to get something out of them isn't really going to happen, right? So get to know them. And in a second, this is what I love to do. When I go to an event, I'm like, right, what is it you need? I try and figure out what is it they need, like completely off the subject of what I have, right? What is it you need? When I figure out what they need, I'll go, right, I know what they need, and I bank it. And I'll go, what is it you need? What is it you need? So I try and find out what everyone needs. And then I'll go, right, and about Tom, you mentioned you need help with this particular scenario. That person actually says they specialize in it. It might be worth you two just having a conversation. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to it. Hope something comes out of it and then walk away. Right? So generally just try and help people, right? Try and really help them understand. Like if I was making notes on a topic and someone goes, I missed that point of that. Well, here you go. I think that's what you're looking for. Hope that helps. Leave it at that. Have a laugh, right? Find some common ground, right? Try and figure out something, because the aim is not for you to go to one event and that's it. The aim for you is to keep going to these events. You will see the same people, right? And the key thing here is it's not what you say to people that matters, it's how you make them feel, right? And it took me years to learn this, but actually when you make someone feel, you know what, he's so easy to talk to. Oh, it was such a laugh. Or, do you know what, he connected me with someone else. There's just a warmth to you, right? And then by the time you meet on the third or the fourth, in their market model, we call it touch points, right? By the time you meet third, fourth touch point, there's a rapport, right? And then it might, if you can do this, you've won, you've succeeded. If you can get to the third, fourth touch point before they even know what you do, you've won, right? They're going to be like, George, I never knew. What is it you actually do, right? It's like, oh, you know what? I'm running an ads agency. I just started it off, just coming off the ground. How's it going? It's always going. It's going good, right? Be grateful, right? The worst thing is someone doesn't want to hear you complain. It's like, you know what? It's not started the way I want it to start, but hey, you know what I mean? I'm excited, and there's no endless. The possibilities are endless, right? And just being really optimistic and stuff. And they go, you know what? What is it? And then they will actually reach out to you. If they don't at that point, just don't even mention it. Just go, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about me. Talk about you. How are things going since you this happened or that happened? I'd love to know. And then you'll find eventually they go, wow, actually, hold on, this person. Let's see what we can do here.
I think what you've just described is, I feel it's quite important, because I would say, if I was listening to that, the temptation would be that I should turn up at these events and just immediately go into, like, who do I know? How can they help me out? But I think, as you quite rightly put it, you shouldn't come across as too salesy. And yeah, I think it's nice the fact you're willing to give something rather than just take something immediately. I think that builds trust. The only other bit I wanted to chat about is, you mentioned it about 10 minutes ago, content. So we initially went through the example of you calling 100 people a day and how that was successful for you 13 years ago, but now things have moved on. So posting content, how often, on what channels, how long should you be doing it for? What does it mean practically?
From what I do, especially at the start, focus less on quantity and more on quality, right? And I think this is something that can easily be lost. So, especially now with AI, people can just put waffle up online, right? And AI isn't at that level yet where it really provides information of substance unless you have the right prompts, right? Okay, when you're posting content, what's the name of the book? I think it's called They Ask You Answer. Let me just check. They Ask You Answer.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, it's called They Ask You Answer. And it's just an incredible book. And it talks about how, try anytime you meet anyone, find out what are the questions that they're asking. What is their biggest pain point? What is it that makes them itch, right? Don't try and answer it just then, right? Write it down, right? And when you're writing content, try and answer that question with as much detail as possible, more detail than anyone else. Find out every single other person who's written content on it. What are they missing? What can you add? Right? Because when you provide content of real substance for people, they go, oh my goodness, that answers the question that I have. Whoever this person is has the answers. After time, you're going to get better at this, right? You're not expected to get better in the first time. And this is where it comes down to doing, right? You've got to make sure you have that balance and actually do, right? Get a few of these out, right? And then eventually what will happen is you'll build an online network of people you've never met before who know, okay, actually, hold on, this guy has credibility in this subject, right? And I know this because of this content that he's put out. So that helps with social proof to some extent.
Mm.
And you have platforms now like LinkedIn. It's like a digital CV now, isn't it? You can find out everything you can about someone, putting out that content. Like LinkedIn has something called LinkedIn Pulse, where they create content with AI, right? And you can actually go in there now, and you can actually add some real substance to that content, right? Depending on what the topic is, right? Obviously, you have to get invited to it because you have to do a few posts on LinkedIn. But then, if you put out enough content that gets received well by the market, you are then deemed as a top voice, right? So me and a few members of our team, we're top voices in particular subject areas because we were able to give enough information. So there's things you can do online that not only will you get credibility with people, you get credibility with the platforms, right? And then it's just going to increase your profile, increase your brand.
Is it quality and quantity, or would you at the beginning just focus on putting a few good bits of content out per month, per week? I'm just trying to gauge what is the baseline here, George.
That's a good question. I think to begin with, just get it out, right?
Yeah.
Get it out, right? But analyze, review it, right? And see, and you can, like, when you put stuff online on social platforms, right? You can measure the success. How many people liked it? How many people commented? What feedback did they give? And at times, the questions. So that's why quantity is going to trump quality into some degree, right? Because you don't know what content's going to resonate the best with people at a certain given time, right? So you need to kind of put the odds in your favor. If you have one very well put together content compared to 15 good pieces of content, the 15 is likely to hit with and resonate with people more than the one, right? It's just a numbers game. But the one thing, if you can just get that fine balance of putting out good content often, then you're winning.
So I'm just thinking of a personal example, and hopefully some of our guests can relate to this. So I've spent, being brutally honest, very little time on the Instagram account for this podcast. Like very little, not enough as I should. I've got, I think, something like 50 followers. It's just not something I've spent time on. How would I increase the follower count?
I'm so glad you asked this question, actually, because sometimes you have to think, is the platform right for you as well? And then what do you deem as a success, right? If you're going to deem followers a success, you've already kind of letting yourself down a bit, because the followers might not be the end result. Because at the end of it is, what is the end result, right? You could have 50 followers, right, who are avid listeners, right, and real ambassadors for what you do, compared to 50,000 followers who might have been engaged in the past but are no longer engaged, right? And actually that 50 could actually open you up to a whole array of opportunities in the future, right? So you want to put out the quality and you want to see if the platform fits for you. So for example, if, like, in your particular example, if you're giving business advice, it all comes down to the question, who is it I'm trying to reach and where are they likely to go, right? You're more likely to find people in the business world on LinkedIn as opposed to Twitter, as opposed to TikTok, for example, right? You're obviously still going to find some there, but they're going to engage differently on different platforms. So at some point, it's also worthwhile understanding the platform. I barely have anyone on Instagram. Weirdly, what I found is a lot of Amazon brands are on Facebook, right? It's just that it's that age group of 30 plus, my generation, when Facebook was a thing, right? People went on it and it was on the only social platforms, and we still kind of use it, right? And actually, there's some people who don't email us and they just send us a Facebook message, right? So you get different types of people on different platforms. So get the content out, but ask that question: where are those who I need to speak to or I want to engage with? Where do they go? And go where they go.
So you think it's a case of trialing out each platform and seeing what response you get, but also having deep thought about what is the sort of audience that is going to listen or going to subscribe to my brand?
I mean, like, think about who is who is likely to listen and subscribe, right? But again, just do it, because you might be pleasantly surprised, right? You might just find, for some odd reason, Instagram, you're just popping off on it, right? Once you put a bit of content in, it's popping off, right? Go with the data. Think about where your audience might be, but ultimately go off the data, right? So, for example, a few years ago, we decided to do podcasts, and we decided to do podcasts on Spotify, right? Before someone came up with an idea in the office, and I was like, is it going to work? Okay, just don't put too much time into it. Make sure you get your work done. They did it, and I was like, whoa, the engagement level is insane. People are actually listening to us talking about technical PPC podcasts, right, which would bore the life out of most people, but actually those who are in the industry, those who actually have accounts and are running PPC, they love to listen to it on their way to work or whilst they're doing something, right? So try platforms. And again, I think if you can get onto a new platform quickly, the odds are in your favor.
And that's hitting on the time topic. So if you can get in something at the right timing, it can pay off because you're at the start of the wave rather than something that's quite saturated. I watched a TED Talk literally today. I think it was today. My memory's going a bit. It was by Bill Gross, and he started a company called Idea Lab, of which I think is a accelerator or hosts multiple different companies. And what he did was a study that distilled, and this is something like 20 years later, distilled thousands of companies that he had oversight of, or that his company, Idea Lab, were involved with. And he worked out, for the ones that succeeded and the ones that didn't, what were the most important factors. So, for example, things like the team, the idea, the business model, the time the business was created. And the thing that came up the most, the common factor, was timing. The idea, I think, was second or third. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that, because obviously it's not like he has the monopoly on the definite about what creates a good business and one of the composite factors that are needed. But do you think timing was the biggest factor that plays into why Clear Ads is where it is today? Or do you think not so much?
Yeah. So interesting stories. I think timing does come into it, but this is where, like, those people you had on your podcast where they tried an idea every month. I absolutely love it. I applaud them. I want to listen to that podcast. These guys sound super on it, right? Because timing is important. But if you do so many tests as these gentlemen have done, right, you're putting the probabilities at your favor. So someone who tries 10 things to someone else who tries 100 things, that person who tries 100 things is more likely to find the timing, get the timing right, right? So being vigilant to what's coming out and what's new and what's different, being willing to just test it and get in there fast is important. So when we were doing Google Ads, we understood how to do it. Well, we kind of doing it well. It was saturated. What would happen is I'll get a quote out and then they'll be impressed with the audit I've done. But by the time it comes back, they found 3 other people who will do it half the price, plus they'll include Facebook ad management, right? And I'm not looking to stoop that low. I need to make a living, right? And there's a bunch of people who live in countries where their cost of living is cheaper, right? Does not mean that I'm gonna do a better job than them. It just means I can't live off what they can live off, right? So they have an edge on me. Again, this is where the market is brutal. I can complain, but what's the point? That's just how life is. They could serve better than me. So I tried a whole bunch of things, right, before I got to Amazon PPC, right? So we tried and we failed at LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Expedia ads, TripAdvisor ads. Tried to do a learning course, that failed. Tried to sell website design and creation, that failed. Then a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should try Amazon PPC." She went for an interview with Amazon, and they said they're struggling to get any agencies to take it seriously. Right? I could have went, yeah, whatever, and ignored it. But I thought, you know what? That day, I'm not leaving the office until I create a landing page saying I'm an Amazon ad specialist, and I run ads to that page. Right? And I was like, right, did it. I was tired. Went home. Went to work the next morning. I was getting phone calls. So it's gone from code calling to them calling me. It's gone from people going, "Oh, get a life," to "I've been looking for someone like you for ages. I'm so glad I found you." That start to a conversation is going to go way more different to, that cold call, who is this guy? So the fact that we got into Amazon ads, now, when we got in, I was honest. I said, I've never done this before, but I've worked on a more seasoned and mature platform. And this is much more of a basic platform. You'll be my first client. And because if you take this risk and trust me, there'll be no fee on my part for the first 3 months. You can tell me what you think of what I've done. After the first month, they just started paying me. They're like, look, this is ridiculous. You're doing a good job. It's great. It was a fraction of the work, and we can charge triple the amount. Right? So the fact that we got into it so early. So getting in early definitely has its pros. Like getting in early, I think, is really important, and that's why at the moment, all I do most of my time now. So this is a different topic, but I've managed to get to the business now where it runs itself. It doesn't need me. Right? I could leave it for months on end, and it'll be fine. Right? But I spend 80 to 90% of my time on trying to figure out what's the next thing. Trying to figure out what is it that I can do that only I can do in the business.
That was almost where I was leading with this. It's a very naive, I don't think this is the right view, but someone could say that maybe it was a bit disheveled. Everything seems to have been invented now. Whenever I come up with an idea, I search it, it exists already. Do you think there is as much opportunity to find new niches and to be part of something new, whether that be a market, a sector, as there always has been? Or do you think it's getting harder and harder?
I think it's more of a mindset thing, right? So it all comes down to your mindset. And I think there's more opportunity now than there's ever been before, especially with AI and the way you can do so much more with the help of artificial intelligence. It just comes down to mindset. It comes down to who you're hanging around with, and how you're influenced. Sometimes when someone else has an idea and it's out already, it doesn't mean that person has nailed it and they're doing a good job of it. It might take some time before you find that one thing that works.
So I'm in your head for that 70 or 80% of the time you're spending now on what's coming next. How do you even begin to work out what is coming next? Is it just speaking to people? Is it trying to lean into industries?
It's a really good question. So for a while, I went through different phases, right? So I went through a phase of I was working too much. I got ill, got this annoying gut disease now because of it, because the stress it caused me. To I'm going to chill out more and I'm going to do less. To hey, I'm retired at 33. To I'm bored. I'm coming back into this. It's so rubbish. Just not doing anything with your time. Yeah, right. You think it's great, it's not, right? To now coming back into full health. And I remember I said, I haven't. Can I just stop and say one thing? People around you, people go, oh, you done it yourself. And there's this thing in the culture where it says, oh, be independent, do it yourself. So untrue, right? I've had so many people help me with the business. There's been so many crazy, amazing, beautiful influences in my life, right? Embrace that. Embrace the ideas people share with you. Don't be scared to share an idea and think they're going to steal it. Most people don't do anything with the information. You can share it because they can give you this insight that actually changes everything, right? Be open-minded. Remember, there's enough for everyone, right? We're not limited in any way.
I like that though. It's the kind of scarcity versus abundance mindset. Yeah, I want to dig a bit deeper because I'm fascinated by the fact you spend most of your time now thinking about like what is the next big thing to come.
So
what is the next big thing?
So that's what happened. So then I like clarity. I like simplicity, right? So then I speak into and that's what it comes out. So I got a business coach, right? And I needed accountability. I said, Jamie, we have meetings 1-to-1 with everyone in the company. I need one now. You need to do one with me, right? Every 2 weeks. So I made action points of what I'm going to do each week. And I just said to him, right now, it's not resonating with me. As a CEO, what do I do? As a CEO, I've managed to successfully give all the stuff to other people and they're managing it well without my help, without the need of me most of the time. Every now and again, you've got to get involved, right? What do I do with my time? And I break it down to 2 things, right? The 2 things I've got to do every single day: learning, output. That's it. Every single day, I've got to learn. What am I going to learn? Every single day, what is my output going to be? Right? What is it I'm going to do that I'm going to achieve? So at the moment, some of the things that I'm looking into is SEO, right? what can I learn about SEO? Who are the top dogs in the space? I found 2, and I'm watching all of their courses, and I paid the money, and I'm watching it every day. I'm being a student. I'm learning, right? On the flip side, what is my output, right? So I'm fortunate enough to be able to figure this, whatever needs to be figured out. So I figure it out, then create a process for it, and then give it to someone else to do the rest. Then I can move on to a new idea, right? So what can I do? Every day, my outputs, I need to pass an accreditation. Every week, I need to send out a certain number of high quality posts on LinkedIn. I need to make sure I get YouTube videos out to this level. There's a whole bunch of things. Hold on, let me just read some of my list.
Let's do it. And what, in the meantime, what does SEO stand for, just for audience?
Oh, search engine optimization. So learning how the search engines decide which websites rank.
Okay. And is that part of understanding what's next?
Yeah,
or is that just part of the learning? Again, I'm just trying to nail that down as to like, is that part of the learning part is working out what's next, or is that something separate?
No, that came from a conversation. So I've always gone, right, what do I need to do? I need to learn. And when you open your mind up to that, you meet people, you have good conversations. I had a conversation with someone who mentioned there's someone in this industry right now who's found some groundbreaking, revolutionary ways of doing things. And I was like, right, whatever I need to do, I need to get in there. Okay. I've got in there. I've got access to the resources. So I'm like, right, this is, gold for the time that I've managed to get my hands on it. So I got it early. So I'm studying the shit out of it, right? And I'm just trying to understand as much of it as possible.
So is that the way that you do things transferable to people at home? So would you encourage people just to try and understand what's next through word of mouth, speaking to contacts?
Yeah, and just like, I think if you got a skill set, so like we're in the Amazon PPC industry, right? So I've gone, right, we're an Amazon ads company, and I've just said to myself, right, what do I need? I need to go back and just take all the exams again, right? They've updated everything, and I'm just going through every day. I'm studying the exams, and I'm figuring out what is there, going through the resources, and you got Google, you got Google's resources on analytics, you got on Google Ads, on mobile, Google Shopping. All of these resources are online that you can learn, right? Just going on those resources and learning from them. A lot of this stuff is updated often, right? So you passing these exams, and then so you're going to be on the cutting edge, especially if you want to go into a Google Ads company or an Amazon company. You take those accreditations, and they're going to be like, wow, this person's different. Like they're proactive. They've got the ability to learn and motivate themselves. This is who you want, right? So many online courses, right? Especially the big dogs, they have them, right? Take advantage of them, right? And learn every day. I'm going to set myself a task of finishing this module or attempting to take. They're free. You don't pay anything. It's free stuff you can learn, right? So, so that's one thing. And then another second thing, I was like, right, I want to, for my clients to serve them in the best possible way. I need to sell on Amazon, right? So I've actually started selling on Amazon, not to make money, just to learn, right? To understand, A to B, right? How do I actually get the products from China, get them into Amazon's warehouse in the US? Done it. Learn. How do I now do more advanced things like using flat files to go over the Amazon's user interface with updating a listing to actually uploading it all, because there's things when you upload that gets missed in the interface, right? And over time, you just go, it's just curiosity, being curious. You go, okay, I wonder what that is. I wonder how many, and you go, and then you start to figure out, not many people talk about this. There's not much content out about this.
Well, the deeper you go, I would say inherently there's going to be less people speaking about it, because the amount of energy needed to go that deep is insane. The amount of time you need to go that deep is insane. So if you're the one doing that, you are going to have the upper hand because no one else is. And so you can mold your content around that.
And I think this is where the people you surround yourself with is so important. Like, oh my goodness. If you're around people who just like to party all the time, I'm not saying don't remove them as a friend. I'm saying, hey, shift your time so you're spending more of your time with those who are like on a different level and always learning. So I've just taken on a business partner recently, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Every 2 days, right, he comes and he tells me, oh, I've done it again. I went into a rabbit hole on this particular topic and I found this, and this. I am right now overwhelmed of ideas. Every day he's coming out, George, there's this we can do, this we can do. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm just trying to organize it and go, right, what is the most important and what we're going to try first, right? So there are some people who are constantly learning and developing. So someone sitting at home, someone who's thinking about starting, someone at the beginning, go to as many events as possible, attach yourself to the smartest people in the room who seem like they're doing things, right? Have an idea of what their character is like. If they're good people, right? Latch onto them, learn from them, try and add value into their life, and it will rub off on you. So I know he's rubbing off on me. He is rubbing, like, my enthusiasm, my passion for this has gone through the roof. You know, before I was a little bit more laid back. Now I'm in the office 6:30 a.m. It's 8 p.m. now. I haven't left, and I'm loving it. Every moment of it. Right, this is so much fun, and there's frustrating bits to it, but because I'm like, you know what, I'm next to someone who's going at a crazy pace. Let me try and do this, and actually, I'm enjoying it. This is so much fun. I actually need to focus on my social life a bit more because I've neglected it recently because this is just so cool. I'm just like, every bit of it I'm loving.
I love the fact you still have that mentality 13 years on, because if I'd spoken to you after 6 months, I can kind of get it. You're still very enthused, but the fact you still have it 13 years on shows strong signs of longevity.
But this is the thing. When you're starting off, you do not underestimate yourself, because when you're starting off, the biggest advantage you have compared to a much larger firm, because I think I'm unique in this sense, is that they are set in their ways. They have a way of doing things. And as people, when you go into that company, like, you do know if you streamline this, you can get much better results. You do know if you took the service and diversified into this area and cross-sold, you would make a fortune. They don't want to do it. For whatever reason, they don't want to do it. As a young person going into a new business, you are more agile, right? There's less to consider in your decision-making process, which means you can react way faster than anyone in the industry. And that's why it's good. If you're having conversations with the people in the industry, you go, well, what's the itching point? I'm frustrated because I've seen this crazy opportunity and I've spoken to my boss about it and he won't do anything about it. I said, okay, great. What is it? Tell me. Go and do it. Right? After a few months, if you had some success with it, go, hey, dude, you know the thing you shared? It's working, man. They might be the perfect partner because they know it inside out and go, you know what? This person's done something about it. He's making money. They might jump ship and join you. You don't know what will happen. And that's why talking to people, just being interested, and especially at the young, agile age, up to 40, I think, 45, like you can, I don't know, if you're a nimble 50-year-old, I don't know, you could probably do it as well. But like, you have that ability to just go, you know what, let me just do it. Let me just try it out. And sometimes you will be honestly surprised. And that's the thing, don't think about these big companies. Like, oh, well, they got all these resources, they got all this, they got all that. They do not have the ability to shift the things they're doing and move fast.
I couldn't agree more. That's one of the benefits of joining a very small company is you can implement your ideas much quicker. At enterprise level, you're right, people are stuck in their ways. There are processes and procedures for everything. Things are very difficult to change. You did mention it's 8 o'clock, George, and I appreciate I'm glad to hear you're still enjoying it, but you also still need to get some rest. So I'm going to finish on this question. It's something I ask all my guests. Is there anything, and this is in the context of creating a business and the very beginning, the first 100 days or so, but is there anything that you know to be true that no one else really understands?
I think this is the one piece of advice that I give and completely goes over a lot of people's heads. I think it's just been so useful for me. And this is it. There's two ways of doing things. There's the long way when it comes to learning, right? And just try it yourself, fall over, and get back up again. And that has its merits. You want to test. Or that find other people on certain topics who have done things a certain way, have already fallen over, have got back up again and found the solutions. This could be through webinars, YouTube videos, reading books, speaking to people, taking their insights. If you can take this second approach, you can fast forward a lot of the things that you do. So especially when you're starting off a business to start with, right? Rather than trying to do your own books, mess up with HMRC, make some mistakes, costing you money, costing you time, you can speak to someone who's done it before, who's run a business. So take advantage and don't be ashamed. Shame and ego, man, just the way it impacts. Don't be ashamed to ask for advice and learn, and don't be scared. People love it. If someone's good at something, they will love to tell you this stuff. You asking me these questions, I love it. This is the best part of my day. I've enjoyed this so much. So there's two routes. You could take the long way, or you could take the short way. Learn from other people's mistakes, and it's going to be sometimes when they haven't made those mistakes yet. That's an opportunity you could just go into and make them, and then write about it later.
Within the last hour or so, there's been an unbelievable amount of good advice. I'm not even joking. I'm going to listen to this back tomorrow because I feel like there's even stuff that I've missed. There's been just such a good level of advice, George. So really appreciate your time, man. It's been, I felt for me, very helpful, but our listeners as well. I know it's going to go down well. Thank you for watching. It was a belter, wasn't it? I thought it was great. I've put the show notes on Apple and Spotify. I'm currently working out how to actually do that for YouTube, given that's a new platform for us. Next week, we speak to a co-founder of a beer brand that have created this beer that I've certainly never seen before. So please stay tuned. I'm quite excited to share it with you all. But that's it for this week. I will see you later. Roll the credits.